just learned these new chords. He barely knows his words, but it's his big chance for being heard, and he's on in 6 more minutes. She's played for quite some time. She stops and starts on every line. Her heart's been broken like yours and mine, but she dares to sing it out.
Growing up, I can tell you, being differently gendered, gender different, transgendered, I was always told by my peers that I was a girl. You're not a boy, you're a girl, because they were reacting to my feminine characteristics. And so they denied me boyhood, being a boy, and said, you're a girl, especially in elementary school. And then, you know, later on, high school or coming out as transgendered, the first thing that people told me was, you're not a woman, you're a male. You're living a fantasy world. Where do you get off saying you're a woman? You are a man. And so, you know, thinking about that now, I was always denied any gender subjectivity. So to all those people who said these things, I really want to say, fuck you. I want to quote Marilyn Manson. Marilyn Manson said, I don't have enough middle fingers for this world. Well, here's 2. When I was in 11th grade, I was probably 17 is when I came out as transsexual. Because I knew that even though I was biologically male, the category man or male or masculine didn't adequately address who I was. It didn't, make sense to me. So transsexual meant the possibility of becoming a woman and feeling complete and feeling more harmonious and more comfortable in my body. So at that time, I identified as a transsexual, and it felt very good to finally be able to put a label to how I was feeling. Later on, I started college at the University of New Hampshire, and that's when I really started to question on a deeper level my identity, my place in the world, and also the whole issue of gender. What I started to come to terms with was that, in fact, I was not a transsexual, I was a transgender person. And there's quite a big difference to me, in the sense that when I first came out, the first thing I wanted to do was go on hormones and to jump up on a surgical table and get sex reassignment surgery, because I wanted to make mind and body come together in this harmonious way.
There is no one just like you. You are the only one to be who you are. There is no one just like you.
But then I started to step back and to really think about gender from a more sociocultural perspective, and really realize that it wasn't just about me changing my body. It was really about changing the culture. And that has been a big lesson for me. And this is not to invalidate the experience of transsexuals who choose to get hormones or to have sex reassignment surgery in any way. It's to say that for me, that is not the path that I've chosen. For me, it is more really radically trying to question gender and what that means in the culture. I define transgender as a range of expressions, identities, and behaviors that challenge the pervasive bipolar gender system. Now, by bipolar gender system, I simply mean the division of the world into black or white polar opposites of male and female. So we see all of these identities which either cross from male to female permanently or from female to male, We see identities where people go back and forth between both. We see identities where people blur the line between male and female. And increasingly, we see identities where people really don't identify with male or female at all. They identify outside of those categories altogether. So the transgendered community is an umbrella term that encompasses a wide array of different identity categories. And under that umbrella term, we see categories such as cross-dressers, transgenderists, transsexuals, both male to female and female to male, gender benders, gender queers, increasingly the intersex community, drag queens, drag kings, and other gender categories that are coming out every day. And I think that rather than there being less terms, there should be more terms. That language should be something to empower us. And that we shouldn't be limited by people saying, this is so confusing, why are there so many terms out there? That the more terms there are, the better, because people will be able to find themselves along a continuum of different identity categories.
I'm shocked that sometimes people are surprised about transgender people. Look at the natural world. Look at the breadth of diversity in that natural world. There should really be no surprise that that same breadth of diversity exists along the gender continuum. So we need to work to honor that breadth of diversity.
One of the things, too, that's important to distinguish is between gender identity and sexual orientation. Gender identity answers the question, what gender am I? How do I identify my gender? Do I identify as a man, a woman, trans, another gender category? Sexual orientation more answers the question, who am I physically, romantically, erotically attracted to? Men, women, trans people, all of the above, none of the above. So examples of sexual orientation include gay, lesbian, heterosexual, bisexual, asexual, pansexual, etc. A lot of times in our culture, people conflate a lot of these terms. They think that sex and gender are the same things. They think that gender identity and sexual orientation are the same things. I think it's useful to see these terms as certainly related, but ultimately as quite different aspects of the self in order to differentiate between different categories. So you could have, for instance, somebody who is biologically male, who identifies as a woman, but is attracted to women, which would be a transgendered or transsexual lesbian, which is a very common part of the trans community. Or conversely, you could have somebody who is biologically female, who identifies as a man, transitions into manhood, and is attracted to men and identifies as a trans gay man. And that just shows the different varieties of sex, gender, and desire that can take very interesting forms, I think. Look, it's Mike's wife.
In today's age, we talk about GLBT, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, right? And this is becoming more and more standard. And I was one of the people that 10 years ago fought for GLBT and for the importance of including transgender people in gay, lesbian, and bisexual events, affairs, and communities. The problem is that here we are, sort of 10 years into this GLBT community, and I think that to a large degree, transgender still is very marginalized within GLB communities. For me, I know it's been a real mixed bag. I mean, I consider myself a transgender queer. I feel very much a part of the trans community and a part of the gay, lesbian, bisexual communities. And I want these communities to come together, to be unified, to work together. But it can't happen in a way which in any way minimizes one part of these communities. You know, it has to be all of us working together. With the advent of sort of the gay and lesbian rights movement after the more radical queer liberation movement, I think that a lot of people became more assimilationist, and assimilationism means being more gender traditional. The fight for gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgendered rights has not always been inclusive of bi and trans. We have been pitted against one another, and bi and trans people in particular have been, represented as sort of evil stepchildren. I almost want to get a t-shirt that says uppity trannies unite, because that's how I feel. It's time for the trans presence to be known. I'm trans, this is who I am. There are other people like me. We're a nation strong, and you've got to deal with it, honey. Can you please hold my boots? Now, there was a story with these boots. Don't even touch the heel. Because Stefan borrowed the boots for Halloween, and because he is so incredibly immense, he broke the heel off and broke my beautiful boots. So today, Stefan brought me to the Glamour Boutique and bought me a brand new pair of shiny patent leather size 14 fetish cross-dressing boots.
And guess what she bought herself? A size double X.
Hold that thing out. That's right. Hold up that skirt. Hold up that hefty bag. My daily life is informed by fear and anxiety. Just to leave the house for many of us can feel like a supreme chore sometimes, because we know the kind of world we're heading out into. And for me, that's gotten easier with time, but still every day on some level, I have to be aware of the threat of violence. But I also have to be aware that I can't allow fear to control my life or to impinge upon my dreams, what I want to accomplish. That to some degree, I have to own my fear and also be aware of my safety, but also be aware that, I only have one life to lead, and I want it to be the best one that I can lead. Passing in the transgender community refers to the ability of somebody to be undetected in their chosen gender role. So for instance, we could be talking about somebody born biologically male who is able to pass in society as a woman, so that when they go out and about, the gender that people attribute to them all of the time is female, despite their biological sex. Passing has caused a lot of division in the transgender community, I think. There's something that has come about that we like to call passing privilege. Passing privilege refers to the privilege which accrues of somebody who has the ability to pass easily. And in terms of my experience, I'm 6'6" biological male without breasts, with large hands and large feet. So it makes it very difficult for me to pass as female much of the time. I think that people attribute different genders to me, sometimes male, sometimes female, sometimes just a big question mark. There seems to be a particular disdain for biological males who dress as women but are unable to successfully or convincingly pass as female. And that has a lot to do with the dominant social structure of our culture.
which is misogynistic and patriarchal. And when biological males cross-dress or appear feminine, that is first of all degraded. But if they're going to do it, they better do it well. They better be hyper-feminine and able to blend in. And I just think, along with that, there's also a particular disdain for tall women in our culture, because women are supposed to be petite and submissive and not physically threatening.
Mirror, mirror, please, there upon the wall, tell me who's still the fairest of them all. Hey, look at me, what do you see? It's you staring back, reflections you see, shadows of me, part of you known to be true. It's just a phase I'm going through.
You know, to me, the people who get the most shit are the ones who are really balancing on that line between male and female. Visible invisibility, invisible visibility. It's this sense of me being seen as who I am, a transgendered person, but then automatically after that seeing, being re-rendered invisible. Imagine being in that very precarious, frustrating, enraging situation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's like, you know, ironically, I am seen as who I am, as a 6'6" queer transgendered person. But then, because people aren't able to make sense of that in their limited, bigoted gender paradigm, I'm out the window, I'm gone, and I don't exist. I've decided not only am I often unable to pass, to blend, but that I don't want to. You know, that is a political decision for me, that I don't want to pass because I want to be visible as who I am. And through being visible, I feel that I am able to lend myself more easily to creating the kind of world I want to live in, to fostering liberation and to fostering gender freedom. I am really energized and excited by the genderqueer youth who are challenging gender to the core. I think that many youth have come out in an age where transgender is at least always partially on the radar screen. Many of us, when we came out, were the only ones, and we faced a lot of isolation, and we didn't have the information and the resources that younger people do. I really believe that as we progress, we will continue to get more and more sophisticated about gender, identity, and politics. And that I look to the younger people for my inspiration, generally speaking. I respect my elders and what they've been through and what they bring to the table, but I also respect the youth because I really do feel solidarity with the youth in challenging gender as much as possible and having a fluid gender expression and not falling into a gender rut, a sort of gender jail. And that's why for me, recently I wore a suit and tie and it felt really weird, but also kind of fun. I think that's what we need. We need to always be playing with gender, to challenge its borders, and to do things which make us step outside of our comfort zone in some way. Because that kind of playing with the makeup, the clothing, the imagery can be a confrontation to those who are entrenched in traditional gender roles. So I think that those who identify as genderqueer, young people, those who, really say, I'm a gender fucker, or fuck your gender, I think that that's exciting. Transsexual menace. Woo! Who is this girl in my house? I don't even know her. I'm in a state of shock. All my friends are becoming women before my very eyes.
Good thing for one night, you're not alone.
This is a common dilemma for transgender people. Which bathroom do we use? This is the men's room. Oh, look. Here's a urinal. They're filled with pee. Kind of gross, huh? And there's one stall. I don't like the men's room. I think I much prefer the ladies' room. Want to check that out, Ragini? Women. Here we've got 2 stalls, both private. A Tampax machine for feminine hygiene. And beautiful mirrors that we can check ourselves out in. Transgender people face what is called, various people have called it different things, like the bathroom bugaboo, urinary segregation, that in our culture, most public restrooms are segregated on the basis of sex, male on one side, female on the other. For transgendered people, especially those of us who blur the gender line, this creates a tremendous problem. One of the most basic human functions is to use the bathroom. For many transgendered people, this is a task which is fraught with danger, confusion, and fear. That there have been cases of people, transgendered people, using the bathroom that they think they need to use and being told by security to get out, being harassed by other people using the bathroom, and even the extreme cases of people being violently attacked or arrested simply for using the restroom.
Aren't you in the wrong place, sir?
I don't think so.
Well, shouldn't you be in the men's washroom? I mean, you are a man.
No, I'm not.
Get out.
Make me. Are you happy now?
Get up! Stop it! She's not a woman. She should be in the men's washroom. She is a woman and she's our friend. She's not. Yes, she is. No. You say you're sorry.
She doesn't have to.
Say it.
Sorry, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
The fact that this is compromised is an outrage to me. There need to be a lot more gender-neutral bathrooms. It really is a basic accessibility issue. The other thing to keep in mind is that about 50 years ago, in the South and many parts of this country, bathrooms were racially segregated. There were separate facilities, water fountains, public restrooms for whites and coloreds. We finally progressed as a nation to see that this was barbaric, unfair, ridiculous, and we no longer have racially segregated bathrooms. I believe that gender segregated bathrooms are the next frontier. I have not heard a really good justification for having gender segregated bathrooms. If you're born male in this culture, you're not supposed to like boas. They're flamboyant, they're overtly feminine, they break the rules. And so this is like a winter boa. It's woolly. It actually keeps my neck warm and it's fun to wear, but I have, regular boas too. And I just think that they're flamboyant and they scream, I am a queen, I'm a queer, I'm a tranny, I'm here. Don't mess with me. It's like, No matter how smart you are, no matter how clever you think you are, if you're not given an opportunity in this country, you cannot survive. And trans people are not given enough opportunities. America is discriminatory as hell against so many types of people. The American dream, to me, is such a horrific myth. It's not just that it's a myth, it's that it's very almost sadistic, because one of the things that people do is that they internalize the American dream. And so when they fail, they immediately think, what did I do wrong? And, what I believe is that you have to point the finger out and say, what is the system doing so that it will not allow me to succeed? The system is set up to ensure the failure of many marginalized groups in this country. When you look at the forces of AIDS, of hate crimes, of discrimination, of poverty, of the way that we internalize all of that bullshit out there that's against us, suicide, substance abuse, it's really a lot. It's a ton to deal with. The other day I was so happy a friend of mine sent me this card, and it's of a really cool looking drag queen who's giving a bunch of folks the middle finger. It looks like a bunch of sort of straight people who look semi-shocked and semi-amused. And in addition to that wonderful card, she sent me these two stones. The first one says, there is nothing to fear. And the other one says, you matter very much to the world. And that just made my day. Courtney is not trans, but she really gets it, and I consider her to be a true transgendered ally. And I haven't met a whole lot of them in this world, so I'm really thankful when I found one. When I opened it and held it, I got goose pimples, because this is exactly what I need to hear. And it's exactly what I need to help myself believe, because, a lot of times I don't. Everything that's out there, from the media to the government to the courts to families to the educational system, says that I am not supposed to even exist. I am not supposed to, as Audre Lorde said, survive. I was never meant to survive. So this is an affirmation, a validation that I take very seriously and that I try my hardest to remember. And it's those times when I can't remember this, that I feel like I'm really faltering the most, because it's like people can tell you this, but I have to believe it in here. And no amount of education or friends telling me is really going to do it. I have to believe it. And all of us as trans people need to believe that we matter very much to the world, that our existence is not accidental, that we are here for a reason, and to live it out, girlfriend, to live it out loud, to take out your brilliant colors from the crayon box and just work it. There are some people who will look at me and instantaneously, based on being gender variant, transgendered, I am seen as an immoral person, a bad person, a sinister person, a weird person, bizarre, deviant, all the negative labels that are out there. And that's something that, I have to live with day in and day out. it exacts a toll. It exacts an incredible toll for my life.
It's our job to tell the world that it's not okay to be gay.
I want people to understand that it's a sin. It's a sin. It's a sin.
We have to be so out there, so vigilant, and so strong in voicing who we are, using my voice. That's all I've got. And that's why if I come off as uppity, if I come off as angry and pissed off and enraged, as frustrated, as snotty or snippy or whatever it is, it's because I'm trying to survive and deal with all of the bullshit that I get every day.
Feels like carrying a child I didn't really want to conceive, but it is given to me.
We live in what Bell Hooks described as a white supremacist capitalist patriarchy. That these interlocking systems of domination are omnipresent in our society. So in addition to discrimination, we also face violence that people of color, women, GLBT people, as well as poor and working class folks face greater levels of violence in the society. So when we speak of hate crimes, it's very important to contextualize them within the system of white supremacist capitalist patriarchy. That trans people often are only killed because they're trans, but also because they're people of color. As horrible as the death of Matthew Shepard was, it did receive a tremendous amount of coverage in the media, whereas a lot of the young trans women of color receive scant attention, and often they receive no attention at all. So we really have to be careful to analyze hate crimes within not only the context of patriarchy and transphobia, but also white supremacy and racism and classism. I am vulnerable to violence and to attack. Every day when I walk out this fucking house, I have to think about some asshole coming after me with a gun or a knife and thinking that my life is so worthless that I do not deserve to live. I'm tired of hearing about trans people being killed in this country. And not only physically killed in hate crimes, but having their spirit and their soul murdered every day. Decimated by the climate of transphobia, and I want to see a real commitment by everybody to acknowledge that we deserve to live, and we need to come together to stop hate crimes, violence, and also the internalization of despair. Ask yourself this question: what is the value of human life? Why are the lives of some people weighted so infinitely differently than the lives of other people? In the words of poet Barbara Deming, we cannot live without our lives. First and foremost, remember the victims of passions and murder here tonight, for we honor the dead by remembering them. Give gratitude and positive energy to the surviving family members who are here tonight. Even in the face of your pain, you come here to advance and demand accountability for the death of your loved ones and to squash bigotry and intolerance. To transgender allies, hold your friend or family member close and give them a hug. We need your support as we attempt to navigate the often hostile environment of a transphobic culture. Trans, drag, gender variant, and intersex people, remember to love and cherish your unique identity, and remember always how special you are to this world.
In our kindred spirits, we remember. We remember.
This is what courage is. It's not just living through the nightmare, it's doing something with it afterward. It's being brave enough to talk about it to other people. It's trying to organize to change things. I don't know what it would take to really change the world, but couldn't we get together and try to figure it out? Couldn't the we be bigger? Isn't there a way we could help to fight each other's battles so that we're not always alone? It's very empowering for me to be able to walk with a group of allies, a group of supporters, past the frats, fist waved in the air, and take back the streets, take back the night, take back my own personal power.
2, 4, 6, 8, no more deep break.
At the Speak Out in the student union, there was so much good energy and so much unity, so much resolve. It's like a whirlwind to see the amount of energy come together in that room. And that is why I know that we can make dramatic, radical changes in this society. We need to keep mobilizing. We need to keep doing this. I'm thankful for every rally that I can go to, and I'm thankful for every time I have the opportunity to speak. Every time I have the opportunity to tell part of my story, to read poetry, to use my voice, and to raise that voice with my sisters in a chorus that will become so loud that nobody's going to be able to ignore us. I remember one of my transgendered elders sitting me down once. This was right around when I first came out. And she said to me, "I hope that you always realize that you have more friends in this world than you do enemies." And at the time, I was 20 years old, full of myself, and said, what a corny saying. But now, 10 years into this, I realized that what she said is very true. And that even when it doesn't feel that way, I've got to believe that I do have more friends than I do enemies. And that people will support me in this struggle. So it's been such a both an arduous and exhilarating ride to see people at their worst, but also to see people at their best, to see people supporting each other, to see people rising to the occasion and saying, we're better than bigotry, we're better than hatred, and we can live our best life and do what we're supposed to do on this planet, which is to spread love, to be loved, and to love others as much as we possibly can.
Love your body, love yourself, love your body like no one else does. It is your only home, it is your only, and if you can't feel at home there, then your body is beautiful, even free. Your body is beautiful, beautiful, even.
Next weekend is the New Hampshire Tree Spring Summit, and we are going to have a great time in this very building. Now you have to pan it so you can pulse me. Down. You just hold it down.
Well, can't you get a wide shot?
You are a terrible photographer. You see this little thing? Experiment with it.
Oh, so there we go.
Yeah.
That's all it does.
Try Lipfinity. I love it. It's really fun because you put it on, then you put on a moisturizer on top, and it like stays on for a good 8-10 hours. It's incredible. It doesn't come off on like your glass or your fork or whatever, and is just really cool. So that's something that I like. It's about $9-10 a tube, but it's worth it because think of these other lipsticks, you gotta keep putting them on all the time. So that's something that I like. Well, here I am in digital mode. Mosaic mode, I should say, looking pretty messed up. But you know what? I was just thinking, it's just so interesting looking at myself in this mosaic setting because it makes me feel really genderless, and I like that. And also very modern, I guess, and just wonder if the future, if this is what people will start to look like as we get moving with the digital age here. Yeah, I can still see my fingernails. This is the American jungle. It's scary out there. It's not easy. And I'm rambling, so see ya later.